Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Welcome back to Clicks and Bricks. Today I've got Edwin Carrion of Carrion Investment Group with me. We're going to talk a little about real estate, public speaking, all kinds of stuff. This guy's got more than 20 years in the industry, a lot of stuff under his belt. Super excited to bring you on today. How you doing today, Edwin?
Hey, Ken, good afternoon. Thank you for having me on your show. And to everyone listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and whatever time it is where you're listening from.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have you on the show. You've done quite a good career in real estate, and then you've moved on from that, investments, public speaking, all kinds of stuff. But before we get into what Edwin's doing today, can you tell us a little bit about, your early childhood, growing up? What made you, what was a catalyst moment in your life that said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to do this full time?
Okay, well, I was born in Quito, Ecuador, raised by a single mother in a very humble home, and I moved to the United States at the young age of 12 years old. And when you asked me the question, what was the moment, the pivotal moment when I said I was going to be an entrepreneur, I wouldn't be able to tell you what was it or when was it. But I can tell you that at a very young age, I really started negotiating and selling things and doing things. And one of the funny stories that just came to my head right now that I barely talk about when I do interviews is when I was in Ecuador, my mom was living in the United States for a few years. And while I was in Ecuador, she used to pay the ice cream guy a monthly fee so we're able to get ice cream every day. And instead of me getting the ice cream from the ice cream man, I used to take the ice cream and I used to sell it to my friends for a lower price. So I guess, entrepreneur, like being a hustler or being somebody that likes to do business has been within me, ingrained in me at a very young age. And I see that in my kids and my daughters today. The reason I say that is because my daughters were talking to my mom today. And while they were talking to say hello, and we just came back from a trip last night, they're selling her already earrings, like Christmas earrings. They're selling to her Christmas earrings, and it's like, sometimes it's not what moments do you see in your life, it's what is it that you're surrounded with. And I think at that time, being at a very young age, my mom has always been an entrepreneur at heart, meaning always doing little things. And as I'm looking at that, and as I was growing up, you kind of want to take that form in your life to be able to start doing those little things, whatever it is, it's little small businesses.
Right. At the end of the day, entrepreneurs are you're solving problems for people, right?
Yes.
And whatever that problem is for a young 12-year-old boy, is make more money instead of getting some ice cream so I can buy some cooler shoes or whatever it is that you wanted to get, right? So I love that mentality. I always find when I'm talking with business owners and entrepreneurs that the roots really go back to when they're a child, and it's just something that's in you. It's not something, I'm sure a lot of people go from not being an entrepreneur to entrepreneurship with very little issues, but I think it's something you're born with more than taught how to do. So,
yes, and that's exactly what an entrepreneur is, solving somebody's problems.
Yes.
And when you're an employee, you're in the best position in life because you're getting all this knowledge, you're getting all this experience. But so when you're able to solve the problem, figure out what is it lacking in the business that you're working for, or what is the problem that they're not solving, that even though you try to give that input and they don't want to hear you, then you go out on your own and solve that problem.
Right. All right. So moved here from Ecuador, right? At 12 years old, that had to have been challenging.
Yes.
Right. So did you speak English when you got here?
No,
Already?
I did not speak English.
So,
and I don't think until today I speak English. So, there's
I don't think any of us are good at it.
I still have a huge accent. So there's a lot of words that sometimes I don't know how to say them. So,
Yeah.
It's always a learning process. Life is about learning every day.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a challenging time for a boy or girl anyway, is going through adolescence and all that other stuff, and not speaking the language has got to be wildly challenging. So congratulations that is the American dream, right? Come from anywhere else and get here and then figure it out and, carve your own path in the world. Your first businesses were real estate. Is that true? correct?
My first major business, yes, it was real estate.
Okay,
Right after leaving the United States Marines, I became a real estate developer.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about what that journey was like? Some of the the hurdles that you had to overcome, and some of the home runs.
Yes, I mean, the biggest hurdle that I had to overcome as a real estate developer was leaving the Marines, coming back, living in my mom's house, and then starting a business that I knew nothing about and I had no idea about. And we didn't have the technology that we have today, and we didn't have the access to all these mentors and people that we could see what they're doing. So it was kind of like very small circle of figuring out, who can teach me how to build, who can teach me how to do this, who can teach me how to buy land, who can teach me how to get a loan, and how can I get a loan? Everything I have to go through a lot of trial and error in order to become successful. And throughout that trial and error, there was a lot of mistakes that I made along the way until learning from those mistakes, I think was really the most important thing that happened in my life, that I was able to learn from every single one of those, and I didn't continue making the same mistake over and over again. And I think in life, that's one of the things that some people don't learn, and they constantly keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, it takes me 3 or 4 times on a good one to say, you know what, I'm not going to try that anymore, and then just let that go. But I think that's a really great point, is just continue to try, right? Thank you for your service, by the way. You're a United States Marine.
Yes, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
How many years of service?
I did a 4.5 years active and another 4 years in active duty. So total 8.5.
I have a lot of nephews that are in the military today, so it's a dangerous job, and we appreciate that you did that for all of us in our freedoms. So, leaving real estate. So you had a good run in real estate. 20 years?
Well, I'm still in real estate, and
Okay.
It's been over 22 years now in the real estate market
So
as a real estate developer.
what do you do now in real estate?
A real estate developer, I continue doing what I was doing when I started back in 2002, which is real estate development. But now I have graduated to building high-end luxury homes. So I do projects anywhere between $5 to $10 million on the high-end side, and I also do low-end multifamily projects. And I just continue building those low-end multifamily projects.
Wonderful. So, and I'm going to go into real estate for just a second. I know this is a show about entrepreneurs and stuff like that, but I just love business as a whole. And I think this is good for people to know. We're going into, this show's going to air early 2023. And in late 2022, while we're recording it, it feels like the beginner housing market is completely gone. Like there's no beginner homes on the market at all anymore, and nobody's building them. So you said low, I want to say low end, but entry-level apartment complex or multi-tenant buildings. Do you think that's a huge way we're going to be moving in the future, is back to multi-tenant, larger multi-tenant establishments instead of buying the home for that first-time home buyer?
Not necessarily. And the reason I don't think that is because you mentioned a minute ago is living the American dream. And part of the American dream is owning your home, right? So someone is always looking to buy their home, whether it's a multi-million-dollar house or it's a beginner house. There's always someone always looking to buy their first home, to start and to fulfill that part of the American dream. So there's never going to be a lack of buyers in that. Now, as we go into a recession, because I know that's where you're headed to, and that's why you kind of mentioned it without actually saying the word. In 2023, yes, we are in a recession today, and we're going to hit hard times. And that's why you see a lot of the huge builders scaling down. But as a developer, when we enter the recession, that's when we really start in acquisition mode, meaning we start buying more land. There's a lot more opportunities for us during the recession. But it's also, as a builder, I like to build during the recession because to me, my cost of construction is so much less. And then the opportunity when people are not buying, if you're not buying, because you cannot afford to buy because you're in a bad situation, your only other form of doing things is that you have to rent. So we temporarily rent until we're able to, until the market turns around and we sell. And it's just learning from that market. There's always cycles and everything in life. There's ups and downs. And I've been fortunate enough that I lived through those down moments and I learned really hard through those down moments that now when I look at a recession, when I look into things like that, I don't see them as something negative. I see them as something positive, as an opportunity to continue creating wealth and as opportunity to continue building people's dreams. Because as a developer, the one way that I see and it fulfills me being a real estate developer is that I'm building the American dream.
Absolutely. And I think that is so important right now in the world, especially I know in America, people are just nervous about the recession. Are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? Is this a depression? What's going to happen? And it's pretty obvious, right? You don't have to be a real estate expert to see there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the real estate market today, right?
Right.
Mid 2022, people were spending, 10, 15, 20% more than asking price on their homes, right? And that kind of happened and went quickly. For the person out there that's worried about the recession, this is an ebb and a flow. And right now, so hopefully Edwin gave you some kind of hope for the future through this recession of this is the time where investors are going to invest in infrastructure. They're going to invest in property, land, and all of those things to prepare for the next stage of growth, right? So we kind of need this lull that we're having right now to gather our troops and create a new movement forward. And that's what you're doing. And I think it's very wise of you to see that future. And this is the time to buy, right?
Yes, it is the time to buy. People always ask, is now the right time to buy? Yes, now is the right time to buy because what tends to happen is, and when we talk about the right time to buy, I'm talking about all types of markets, not just real estate. People, when everybody's buying, you're paying top premium prices for things, and that's the moment that you really don't want to buy.
Right.
You want to buy when nobody's buying, and this is the time you have opportunity. And one of the things that I like, even though interest rates are high right now compared to what they were a few years ago, yes, you might end up paying a higher interest rate today, but you're buying a house at such a good price that in a few years when the market turns around, you're able to refinance at a low interest rate and have all that built up equity once the property values go up. So it's a great time to buy. And I tell people, you need to continue to buy, figure out how you can buy and take advantage because there are opportunities right now, not only on the real estate market, but in all types of market. I mean, if you're into watches on the luxury watch market, there's huge opportunities right now. And
Right.
in the car market, if you like exotic cars, if you're into cars, there's great opportunities to buy cars that are going to hold their value and they're going to increase in value over the long term. So
Right.
when you really start looking at things, this is the moment to really take advantage of opportunities and increase your wealth.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not a financial advisor or a real estate guy. I know you're not a financial advisor,
I'm not.
but in my head today, in this market, this is the perfect time to take an interest-only ARM if you're going to be buying a new property, right? Because the interest rates are high. You want to get a nice property, so you get an ARM. You pay a low monthly fee, or low monthly
Yes.
mortgage, and then you're waiting for that time to refinance that mortgage into a standard commercial or
Loan.
what's the name of the loan? Like just traditional loan, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Conventional loan.
Conventional loan, yeah. So and then convert that into conventional after when the interest rates are down, and that's what I'm doing right now. And I advise, or I'm not advising anybody to do anything, but look into.
You're sharing your experience right now.
There's a lot of opportunity out there in the world today to take advantage of if you have the means to. And
Yes.
my advice is that scratch for those means. Really try, do everything you can to get them because nobody's going to give them to you, right? I mean, you were able to come to America as a 12-year-old boy, didn't speak English, got into the military and started your own companies, right? Nobody.
Yes.
How during that time? How many handouts did you get?
No handouts. There's no free handout in life. Everything has a price,
No.
and the more that you're willing to pay for that, the greater the reward is.
Right. So I know that in the real estate world and in the construction development world, there's all kinds of crazy stories. What is one of the things that you had to go through that you're like, man, that taught me a lot. I hope I never have to go through that again, but I learned a lot from that experience?
Oh, my biggest one, which is going bankrupt. I made so much money in real estate from 2002 to 2007 that when the bubble hit and the bubble burst back in 2007, I had over $20 million in assets and I went bankrupt and I lost everything. I went to zero. So that is one of the biggest losses that I could say and things that I could say. I wish that could never happen to me again.
Right.
And you learn from that, and you become scared at times of doing certain things in certain ways. But as you really think about them, as you progress, you change your mindset and you shift your mindset, and you just overcome those obstacles, and success happens right away. And fortunate enough, now we're talking about building generational wealth, and that's my mindset right now. Is continue creating generational wealth, because at the beginning we think about how can we make money fast so we can become millionaires, and then once you become a millionaire, then what is the next step? But if you start thinking differently, we start thinking about not only ourselves, but what is it that we're looking for, what is the life that we want to live, and that's when you really start creating that generational wealth.
Right. So obviously, you went up to 2007. We all know what happened in 2007, 2008. There's no need to really dive into that. But what should a real estate developer, real estate investor do today to not, what kind of things can they do to see that bubble burst coming and prepare for it better so that they don't get, I mean, the rug got pulled out from real estate investors that were
Yes.
aggressive in 2008, right? So what can you do today to make sure that those kinds of things don't happen to you on this next run, right? Because we're going to have a next run up and we're going to have another crash, right? It's just a
Yes.
matter of time. So what kind of
Okay, so
scapegoats
what
can
can
you
we
put in
do?
place?
And not only real estate developers, not only real estate people, but we talk about this is a podcast about business, right? So let's talk about business and entrepreneurship. What can you do right now in your business to protect yourself for what's coming? And it's become recession proof. It's figuring out what does your business need to do to be recession proof. So if your revenues were to drop overnight 50%, are you going to be able to survive? Are you going to be able to maintain your staff? So it's figuring out how can I make my business recession proof? And the moment that you start making your business recession proof, meaning that you're not over leveraged, meaning that you don't have too much debt, meaning that you're able to sustain your overhead with 50% less revenue, then you're recession proof. So if the recession comes and the market crashes, the world crashes, you're going to be able to overcome these obstacles. But if you're not ready, if you're not preparing for that, then you're in trouble right now.
Absolutely. And I think the caveat to that would be service-based commodities, right? Which doesn't make, I mean, it makes the few rich, but it doesn't make a lot of people rich on commodity-based products and services. But yeah, if you can operate on 50% of your revenue, is that an exercise that you run? Are you saying that everybody should have 2 times the amount of revenue that it takes to run their business?
You should. You should. I'm not saying that you have to,
Right.
but I'm just saying is that how can, when we entered a recession, and what really happened to me, I was really, back in the 2008, I was extremely over leveraged. And the reason I was over leveraged because I wanted to grow so fast. And I was growing, imagine going from in less than 5 years to over $20 million in assets. It's a huge jump, right? Starting from zero, starting from negative $100,000 in debt. So in order for me to get there, I had to become really over leveraged. And every dollar that I had to leverage it by 10 times. So meaning that the moment that the revenue stopped coming in, meaning that even 20, 30% stopped coming in of revenue, I wasn't able to fulfill those obligations. And that's why I went bankrupt. So when you think about your business today, you have to think about it. If my revenue drops 10%, how is it going to affect me? If my revenue drops 20%, how is this going to affect me? So kind of do the exercise all the way down to 50%. But when you really think about 50%, when you're able to sustain your company at a 50% drop of revenue and it runs smoothly with no problems, then you're okay. Meaning that you're able to continue moving and you're able to take advantage of the market when we enter that recession. Because if your revenue drops 50% and you're able to continue moving forward, nothing hurts your business, then you're able to take advantage of the things that are going to come along, because now you're able to leverage that to continue growing your business.
Absolutely. And it's hard, right? I took a 60% revenue hit in 2016. And
Okay.
it was and we did not file bankruptcy, but it was the most challenging thing that I've ever done in my life. It took about 5 years to overcome
Right. So you
that.
understand when I say that, I say,
Absolutely.
can we sustain that? What is it that we're going to do?
Right.
Are we going to go bankrupt? Are we going to have to close the doors? Are we going to have to lay off people?
Right.
And, those are the tough decisions that we have to think about ahead of time. How am I going to replace this versus that? Because if you're running a big company, you have 20 employees and you have to lay off 10 of them, now that means somebody has to pick up that load. So
Right.
how do you pick up that load without you having to be there? Because now at the moment that you're handling all the load and you're picking up all the load yourself, then you're not able to continue growing your business. So you have to constantly think about those things.
Absolutely. I go out 36 months on my forecast, and I have a spreadsheet that has all my expenses and all my income, and I play around with that all the time, right? So you can take employees off, put employees on, add employees for growth. It's basic forecasting stuff, right? And
Yes.
I'm sure there's better tools out there than what I use. I use Google Sheets, but it works pretty well, and I can kind of create different models, and I've got thousands of them from different.
And I think the most important thing that you said is that you have that. And what happens is that if you ask 9 out of 10 business owners or 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs, they don't have that. They don't have a basic cash flow sheet.
Oh wow, that's okay. 9 out of 10, you think?
9 out of 10, yes. Every time I do speaking events or speaking engagements, I ask, how many of you have a cash flow sheet or created a forecast or cash flow sheet? And then maybe out of 10 people, 9 of them sit down, 1 of them stays standing up. And it goes as basic as, how many of you have a business plan? And then pretty much maybe 50% don't have a business plan.
Okay. That's staggering numbers. I don't know. I can't imagine how you would run a business without one, unless I would say a business under 300,000 annual revenue probably doesn't need that. You can do that math in your head, right? It's not much bigger than running your average household, right? It's about 3 times your average household as far as revenue. You can kind of run that like a checkbook, right? But once you get over $500,000 in revenue, you really gotta stuff's moving that you don't even know about anymore, right?
Yes.
So you really got to keep track of that and knock that out. So you've added to your real estate business with public speaking, mentorship, and other services. Can you tell us a little bit about those services and what you do today?
Oh, yes. And nowadays, I run 4 companies, and each one serves its own purpose. So company number 1 is my transportation company, and that company is my cash flow business, meaning that that's the company that continuously create my daily cash flow for me to be able to pay bills, anything that I need to as far as on a daily living expense. And then I have my real estate development company, which that one is called my wealth creation vehicle. So that one continues creating my wealth and duplicating my wealth time over time. From there on, I have my technology company. And on the technology side, that's my passive business company, which it creates passive. And so all the hard-earned money that I work for, I put that into this vehicle, which is my technology company, which is trading on the Forex market, and it creates passive income.
Right.
And last but not least is, my God-given talent, which is motivating and teaching entrepreneurs how to scale and grow their business, or teaching them how to become real estate developers. And one of the things that I have done very differently on this side, on the education side, and I noticed from me investing, hundreds of thousands of dollars into mentors and coaches and everything else, there's one thing that I noticed is that a lot of mentors and a lot of coaches don't invest their own money with their students. And that's one of the things where I differentiate myself is that if I mentor someone, if I teach someone, I'm either investing money on their business, I'm either investing money with them on a real estate development project, because I know what I teach is going to set them up for success and they're going to become successful at it. So when I think about it, I'm like, why wouldn't I invest my own money with them? Because they
Right.
are going to give me passive income.
Absolutely. I love it. I like that. Four different approaches, and they bring money in differently, right? And that's important too, right? Having services that are recurring, that are always there, that's good and stable, but then you want to, go after some bigger hits out there in the world too. So
Yes.
I like it a lot. It's a good strategy.
Thank you.
Edwin, if somebody wanted to learn more about you and your businesses, where would they find that information at?
Go to my website, edwincarrion.com, where you can find me on my social media channels, Edwin Carrion 78, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it, they're all out there. And I give a lot of value. If you want to learn more about business, if you want to learn more about, how I'm able to run so many multi-million-dollar companies, I only work 10 hours a week. My biggest thing is teaching people how to live a fulfilled life, how to be able to make millions without having to work a lot. And that's one of the things that I have mastered. And I love teaching that to people. I love showing them that you can have it all. You can have a successful life while you have a successful business.
Right. Balance is so important, and we don't always achieve it, right? Especially in those hard times. That's when we lose balance the most, I think. Edwin, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we go?
Let me leave them with a little quote that I love to live every time, which is, if you don't know where you're going, you will eventually get there.
Thank you for your time today, Edwin. I had a good time talking with you.
Well, thank you for having me, Ken. I appreciate it. And to everyone listening again, have a beautiful day and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for watching today's episode of Clicks and Bricks. Get to work.